Alright, we've got a couple things to go through here, so let's begin with the big package. Should be good now. See nothing else in the box. Two things. Yes, both notable. And another thing from Crunchy Munchy. You know, I like these little sneak peeks we get before I look at them. And then two onesie packages from Amazon. Sorry. I could probably do that. Let's just start going through this. So first there's a How I Intended an All Guys Mixer. Complete collection, Sentai. Okay, for starters, looking at the back, I see region A only. I do see an English dub. 12 episodes, 2 discs, 300 minutes. Careful, it felt like there was a loose disc, and I do see a loose disc. Thought this aired pretty recently. Huh, I see. I have both discs. They're both sided, okay. But yeah, we got that. Next up, we have Alice in Wonderland Season 2. I think this might... I wonder if this is a print on demand. I'm trying to remember what Season 1 was. 3 DVDs. Whoa. Hello? Season 2, disc 1 of 3. Let's see. That's definitely burn on demand. Okay, good to know. Okay, the more I try to fix this, the more broken it seems to be getting. There we go. That's disc 2, disc 3. Next up, we have City Hunter, the movie Angel Dust. That is not something, but that did it. Okay, what can we say about this? Region A only. Extras, bonus, opening and ending, trailers, PVs, okay. Subtitles, audio, Japanese, French, Italian, and German. French, Italian, German. Nice. Good to know what all's available on there. Which is to say, tons of stuff. Or at least Eurocentric stuff. Yeah, I guess that's that. Next up, we have Blue Exorcist Beyond the Snow Saga. Complete Blu-ray box set. It's so long since I've seen anything Blue Exorcist. Do that. Okay, that feels very... Anything to determine from this before I toss it? These never say region, so they might be region free, I don't know. English and Japanese stereo audio. English subtitles. Does this say it's limited edition anywhere? I don't know. It's an Aniplex release, so kind of hard to tell. Before we go too far with this, back. I didn't know Sans was in this show. Special gift 2. Oh, one of these things. Neat. It looked like there was another one, which is probably 1. Special gift 1. Neat. I think I like the other one more. That one is interesting. We have a special booklet. Episodes, artboards, and more. What do they mean by episodes? A lot of neat things in there as usual. Then last but not least we have... I don't know who any of these characters are. I don't think it's because I don't remember either. Disc 1, Disc 2, Disc 3. Intriguing. Then, last but not least, the Elusive Samurai. This one was good. Still is, but it was too. Put this on the side over there. So we can take a look at this, see if there's anything here, I guess. Lots of information. Probably somewhere in there. Copy protection. I'm not sure what all I'm looking at. It's kind of information dense. But this is a Blu-ray box. So let's open it up and start looking through it. So for starters, what even do we have here? I don't know. I guess there's translations underneath it. Neat, but I don't know. I guess these are posters and not postcards. Okay. Mini posters, but it looks like some pretty great art. Very neat stuff. If you're not familiar with the show, I'm not sure if those help much. I'm not sure if I can explain them too well. I'm trying to remember what about it I do remember. I see a lot of key visuals here. Keyframes sort of stuff. Key animation. It says so right there on the fucking cover. Well, what does this one say? Design works. So more the character designs and reference sheets. Some backgrounds too. Pretty cool. And then we've got this, where it's a good thing we had that poster which had this full art, because now I don't have to... Why does this seem familiar? Something else I got had a bunch of these, and I think it was Demon Slayer, but I guess it wasn't exactly this. These are stickers. I'm not going to go too far with those. Let's see. But I'm trying to think, are these episode references? What are they? Intriguing. Let's put that back in there and look at the discs. Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, original soundtrack, Volume 1, and original soundtrack, Volume 2. Can I... Okay, just some neat scenery. Interesting. Alright, well, here's this week's physical anime collection update. Alright, happy Labor Day, y'all. Let's start getting through the list of stuff here. Why don't we begin with, so as usual, the stuff I watch with my Friday friend. You know, I keep it at the top of my list off the side of the screen here. Y'all should know it's there, even if y'all have never seen it, because I always look that way. But, you know, so we finished my rewatch of Dragon Ball Daima, his first time watch. The last 3 episodes, episodes 18 through 20, and, you know, there's a lot of things that I like about it, but I can admit that it's pretty clear that there were things being forgotten that happened earlier in the same episode, a couple of episodes prior, a handful of episodes, like half the series prior. Cool things, but they're almost like cool things that have to be kind of appreciated on their own, I guess. But overall, you know, I appreciate the fact that Daima exists, that it did some wonderful things to the lore, that, you know, there's just a lot of things I appreciate about it. It was nice to rewatch it. Kaiju number 8. So again, you know, we spent a lot of time watching One Piece last week. So this past Friday, you know, he played catch up on Kaiju number 8, and that's episodes 17 and 18. And I think it's okay stuff. And so, you know, I watched season 2, episode 19, the latest episode, and it's not bad, but I definitely have problems with it. Mostly that, so the show is called Kaiju number 8. And for me, if a show's going to have a title that's a character, then I want to see why am I interested in watching things related to this character. And for the most part, season 2 stuff is, you know, season 1, pretty fucking clear. It's pretty awesome stuff. Again, I mentioned at those moments, but season 2 seems to be doing some more building stuff that feels like, okay, yes, it is kind of about Kaiju number 8, but there is also a lot of shifted focus on things around him, which for the most part is good. But the problem with episode 19 is it feels one step beyond that, and it's like, I'm not sure it necessarily is, but it felt that way. And so it's sort of like, okay, well, cool things are happening and characters are developing. I want to see what Kafka Hibino is doing. I want to see what's up with that. Granted, I do feel like the stuff that's being covered here needs to be part of that, but yeah. Oh well, not everything can be perfect. But rewatching 17 and 18, let's see, we had that stuff. You know, neat things in there, but I'm waiting to see what it's about to become. Oh. Going through the individual list of stuff, Reborn as a Vending Machine Season 2, Episode 9. I guess this one was an episode. It didn't particularly... It was very whelming, I guess. Not overwhelming, not underwhelming. It just sort of was. It wasn't even like a couple episodes ago where I said it was just fun. It just kind of sort of was. And while they introduced a character who seemed a little intriguing, they also just kind of suddenly seemed to be there. I wasn't quite sure if there was any real point to them being there at the time they were. But whatever. Clavatus, episode 9. I think the things they did with that character were quite fun. I think there were a lot of things in this episode that were quite fun. I'm just not quite sure how much detail to try and go in, but, you know, I'd say pretty fun episode. I guess in this case, we're getting closer to the last quarter of the season. I would worry if this show is something that's on the verge of ending itself. That's not outside of the realm of possibility, but if it does, it feels like there would have been a lot of world missed out on, because it feels like there could be more built. But yeah, something important is happening, and I'm kind of curious what we'll see from it. Onio Kaiten Rebirth Verse, Episode 9. So we may be entering what could be the last quarter, and I mentioned before that it seemed like the show was reaching a real ultimate, and it kind of is, but it still is even more than I would have thought. And I'm not sure if it's necessarily good. It's not necessarily bad, but it's making the story and the thoughts behind it more complicated than maybe I feel like they should be. It's okay, but okay. I'm definitely curious to see what it's going to end with. But I do worry that a lot of this stuff makes it really impractical to try to rewatch it. Yeah. Rising of the Shield Hero, Season 4, Episode 8. So the first most interesting thing to mention is I had been watching Season 4 dubbed up till now, but the dubbed episode still wasn't up there. And I watched this episode earlier today. Today's Labor Day, if you couldn't tell by my saying happy Labor Day to everybody. So, that said, well, I'm not sure I know for certain what's going on. A little bit of search kind of suggested that maybe this was actually a boycott or protest from somebody. And I guess, I only saw text of people who had been talking about it on Reddit, I guess, for the past week or so. 5 days may be a more appropriate way to label that. And I think we can say it's probably not Crunchyroll's fault, at least from a technical perspective. I think there could still be argument about if it's maybe their fault from maybe they screwed other people and this boycott makes sense and it is something about them being boycotted. I don't know. I heard everything from a voice acting company boycotting to the Japanese companies boycotting to, and I'm not entirely sure, but I can say that it was a bit unfortunate to not watch it dubbed, but I'm mostly okay with that because while I do enjoy the dub, since that's what I started watching it with, that's the voices I associate the characters with, I still thought it was a very watchable episode because it's fine. It's not as I guess I'm not as emotionally invested as any of us were in Season 1, which I think is something that we've all said, right? But as for the contents of this episode, I thought it was actually a pretty neat episode. Now, I think there's issues with it. It involves a battle, a major battle, but I guess some of the issues with the battle would be that, well, I think there's this element of maybe it's sort of big. I think from the way the battle flows, it doesn't necessarily feel big. The way the characters act doesn't necessarily feel big. They talk about okay, this is going to be something tough to face, but the characters don't really feel like they're facing something fierce per se. I mean, it's fierce, but it's just not something that feels like, seems like it'd be a real challenge for them. But I think outside of that, it had a whole lot of neat things, neat angles, neat stuff. One little moment in there of quiet that feels weirdly executed paced. But otherwise, outside of that, I'd say setup was okay. Some interesting, good thoughts, points. Worried that it didn't tie back to something else that had happened a couple episodes prior. Like certain implications of things were just like, okay, you say this, but ... won't ... And I can understand that things have changed, and maybe in that regard, Season 4 still feels like it's going a little fast compared to Season 1. Season 1 felt like it was really well paced. 2 and 3, really fast. And while Season 4 hasn't felt as bad, it still has You know, it's still not season 1. But, anyways, overall, I thought it was a pleasant episode to see. Reincarnated as the 7th Prince, season 2, episode 20. I guess it was okay. I'm trying to remember. I think it was mostly stuff other than our titular character. But it's all related to stuff going on kind of around him, ancillary to him. Good enough in that regard. So, fine. Welcome to the Outcast Restaurant, episode 9. I guess it's leading into a finale thing. It's okay. I thought this episode was a little boring, mediocre, I guess. The problem mostly being, if I were to choose 2 things, one of them is there was a lot of, okay, people are just sort of doing things. While there is a goal, it just doesn't feel like it's more than, oh, they're just doing things. And I think one part of that is, as near the end of the episode, they've gone into the Capitol wearing white cloaks. I'm like, why? This would be like, it feels like it makes all of them way more conspicuous. Inconspicuous. It feels like it makes them all stand out. Like, it doesn't feel like there needed to be a reason for them to be wearing cloaks. But it's just the show's way of saying, yeah, we're doing something and you better just accept it, I guess. I don't know. But I guess it's setting up for something that's a bit of a finale, and I guess I have certain things I would like to see from it, but not sure what all to think. Dan to Dan, Season 2, Episode 21. I'd say a fun episode. I didn't know Minecraft Steve was going to be in this anime. Technically he's not, but I'm pretty sure that was Minecraft Steve, or a reference to him. Especially if you think about that. Huh. Nanocubes. But what else to say about it? I guess just interesting stuff going on. I definitely had some moments in this episode where I just kept thinking about how much I like Turbo Granny. She's my favorite character still. I like Turbo Granny. She's my favorite character still. Water Magician, episode 8. I think a nice follow-up from what happened in the previous episode. I think a fun follow-up would probably be more exact. Overall, yeah, I think that's what I would have wanted in the follow-up. Fun episode. Again, I really appreciate the fact that even though they're establishing our main character's unprecedented nature, they haven't done it at the expense of the world. The characters in that world still are... It feels like it's their world and not a world built for the main character. And so he's really just there, and the show does a good job of just showing some of his off things being actually just kind of entertaining. Dr. Stone Science Future, Season 4, Part 2, Episode 20. I guess it's stuff... My main problem is, it is related to the main conflict and not the science-y building stuff. But, as certain points of the conflict start coming closer and closer, I think it has to get further and further from some of that. Inevitable. It's important stuff, but I just missed the science-y part of it. Secrets of the Silent Witch, Episode 9. Okay. Oh, yeah, there were some really neat things about this episode. So the previous episode, the previous 2 episodes have been great. 2 episodes ago, it's just like, okay, a real good reminder of why this show isn't just here's a funny premise and let's just do it and then go do other things. No, it's a core, strong concept. And the previous episode did something vital and important, which really leans on what this is about. And some of the things I like about this one is not only some of the follow-up, some of the things we've learned about characters. Like, I think they've shown us before that the second prince and actually this was 2 episodes ago, wasn't it? How he feels a sort of kindred spirit in Monica Norton. And I think it's really neat in this one how they did the horseback riding stuff, and the way he interacted with her was later revealed in the same episode, the way his older brother had interacted for her. And there's just something about that that's just so heartwarmingly awesome. Just something where just like the show's not doing things just to kind of make shoujo slop, for lack of better words. It's doing something with its theming. It's doing something with its, sets up. It's great. It's been great. I don't know that this episode has established a kind of final quarter conundrum or an end of core conflict. So in that regard, in the story flow, it's not necessarily there, unless there's that thing that happened in this episode, which makes it more of a shoujo-y sort of thing. But I think it's a good one because it's a shoujo-y thing, again, within the concept of the show, and not just like, this is going to be the episode where they have a ballroom dance. Which, granted, those can actually be pretty great. But at the same time, sometimes it's like, you can ask the question of if those forward the fundamental feeling or plot of the premise of a show, I guess. Stuff. But anyways, all good stuff. Shihiro and the Assassin Princesses, episode 9. I'd say it's a mostly weak episode. There were things about it that I would say worked out. But it's also kind of an excuse to be the swimsuit episode. And so in that regard, you kind of don't expect much to move forward. And I'd say a couple small things moved forward. But it felt smaller than I think it normally does. Overall, kind of a more entertaining episode than I was afraid it would be, even as it was continuing to go. But I'd say a pretty weak episode so far. Episode 9 of The Summer Hikaru Died. Excuse me, hiccups. It looks like that comes out next week, so that might have been delayed. I say next week, I mean like later this week, on the 6th. Ugly Mug Epic Fighter, episode 9. Okay stuff. Not sure what to think about all of it, but okay. Apocalypse Bringer Minogra, episode 9. I like the new character they brought in. She's a, neat. I wasn't sure what to expect, and I'm glad they haven't done certain things. But for the most part, it's just like her presence is just very pleasant to have around. She was very deliberately designed so much so that I was afraid that it was a subterfuge, and so far I haven't seen anything that suggests that. Oh well. Anyways. Okay, stuff. Not sure if it's set up, but I guess we're about to see what one person's about to do, and if that's going to maybe lead to an end of core, end of season, or end of series sort of thing. Probably not end of series. I hope not end of series. But yeah, well, I guess we'll have to see. Gachiakuta, episode 8. Trying to remember what all happened in the episode. I guess okay stuff. A kind of return from the previous episode to help us get a feeling for what status quo is. Some elements to it that are funny, maybe a little bit overplayed. Good here, mediocre there. So a mix of an episode. Okay episode, I think. And then last but not least, we have Sword of the Demon Hunter, Season 1, Part 2, Episode 21. Very strange episode. I guess strange because, for starters, the more I watch it, the more I'm like, okay, I'm a little bit confused because, when you began the series, you kind of got this impression that most demons were born demons, but this one kind of gives the feeling that most of them weren't. But then that raises the question of why was his sister a demon? Really weird. The way it ended, I think neat stuff happened. Again, I think there's still problems with the daughter character who's she feels like she's sometimes only there as a prop to a certain degree. The other really interesting thing about this episode is you can kind of tell there was some budgeting issues. At first I thought they were doing some stylistic things, but as the episode went on, you kind of tell that they had to cut some corners to get this episode out. Either they ran out of budget, ran out of time, porque no los dos. Little things like, okay, for some reason the characters are really bright against the dark background. In fact, there was one slash where it's just like, okay, that's a very bright background. They were fighting at night. And at first I thought that was just a stylistic thing for us to be able to see that, but then as the episode continued, there were parts where the characters were just really bright, the puddles of blood were just really bright, like they didn't have a chance to darken them to make them match the rest of it. And when I initially thought maybe that was just them creating a stylistic contrast, I thought less and less that was the case, especially when backgrounds started being more roughly sketched but not filled in, and certain backgrounds just weren't there. And it's interesting. I think it's still a very watchable episode. None of that is really any of the problem with it. I'd say it's just more of a problem of I watched this episode and got a more inconsistent feeling about what demons are and what I should think about them. I knew they were already kind of a gray area from the rest of the show, but yeah. This one just making me a little bit confused on what they are, I guess. Because I feel like the more the show goes on, the more it clouds that idea. Even if they have introduced something in this episode that kind of explains some of it. Do I have anything else to say? I thought so. Oh, nice. And it ended in a way where it's like, if this had been a series or a season or core finale, I would have really understood. But there's 3 more episodes. Not that this is the only one which had a very important thing. So I guess this is an important arc finished. I guess we have one more 3-episode arc to happen. Kind of strange, but yeah, interesting stuff. Do I have anything else to talk about? I guess that's right. I did leaf through some of Kabanari of the Iron Fortress. Something I've seen before, but it's been a while since I've, I guess, seen it. And when I took a look, I can kind of understand why. Maybe it didn't impact me as much. I really don't like that the world is dependent on people who are just fucking dumb. And I don't mean like, okay, these are people who are in a strange situation, made bad decisions. They just dumb. I don't know. I guess I just have trouble with that element of it. I really can't think of anything else to mention or bring up. Yeah, nothing particularly special with video games. Nothing with anime. You know, I'm taking this week PTO, so we'll have to see if I fill the time with any anime stuff, or if I don't. I guess we'll just have to see. But yeah, I hope y'all had a nice Labor Day, and y'all have a nice week.